Hello everyone. At the risk of sounding pretentious, I would like to start this video with a quote, one that became far too relevant as this minor investigative journey of mine began. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. What began as a short news piece and one unidentified speaker turned into a brief but very interesting trail of discovery, leading me to a quite interesting character. Let me take you along as I recreate the chain of tidbits that led me towards my ultimate destination. It all began with a brief piece of news out of Seattle, Washington.
This is what some say solidarity sounds like, and what collaboration could feel like. The day-long movement called Black Lives Matter at School took center stage at Washington Hall in Seattle's Central District.
The revolution will come when you and me discover the value of we.
The revolution will come when you and me discover the value of we. This phrase caught my attention, both because of its simple poetry, but more so because of the grim expression the speaker ended it with. It sounded crafted. It sounded practiced. And so, like any good resident of the modern age, I Googled it. To my surprise, it did not seem to originate from a famous person or a book. It may be a mere rewording of something more well-known, but this specific phrase, according to the correlating tools of the internet, had a singular source, related in some way to an organization called UNIPRO. UNIPRO is shorthand for Filipino-American Unity for Progress, Incorporated. It is a social and political activist organization focusing on, as stated, the Filipino-American demographic. But all the links on Google led to their Facebook page, where the mystery quote had seemingly found its only home in print, and to this video in particular.
The revolution will not come from some popular activists on TV. The revolution will not come from some keynote speech at a conference. The revolution will not come from some hashtag. The revolution will not come from some nonprofit sector. The revolution will not come from you just acknowledging your privilege. The revolution will not come from some wishful thinking. The revolution will not come from simply voting. The revolution will come when you and me discover the value of we. Love is written in revolution.
So now I had a bit more information, but I still did not have a name or any more context for this person. So far we had a speaker at a Black Lives Matter event talking about revolution, and then in the second video about acknowledging one's privilege, amongst many other things. The video came from a different Facebook page, this one for GMA Pinoy TV, a Filipino television channel. And at first I thought I had reached another dead end, because there was still no attribution to the speaker. But thankfully, Facebook provides, because a commenter said, "Our poets be killin' it constantly." And there was a link provided, which took me to Ringside, a slam poetry group. And so I perused their videos section briefly and spotted a familiar figure in a familiar hat. Playing the clip, I knew I had found my guy, and then looking at the comments, I finally had a name. John Eklof. As detailed on his website, John Eklof is both Filipino and white. He is both ethnically and culturally mixed, and this has shaped his perspective of the world. He has also been a professional public speaker for 8 years. The topics he covers are understanding the dynamics of privilege and marginalization, creating action-oriented social justice, leadership and empowerment, world and U.S. history, public speaking 101, helping people of color heal beyond internalized racism, and anti-racism work for white people. Now, all of this was just far, far too interesting not to look into further. And so, as he likes to do videos, I immediately looked him up on YouTube, and he has his own channel. Now, there are several speeches and lectures here. Most of them are very long. Most of them are very, let's just say, not too exciting. So I'm going to take some tidbits from a couple that I have watched so far. I may do a longer and more in-depth video on one or more of these in the future, but just for the sake of getting a better idea of where his mindset is at and what he is professing to people, I thought I would show you a couple of select clips from a pair of his talks.
Who works out at the gym? Who be working out? Okay. Well, all y'all can great hands. So you know when you're working out, right? Well, so this is my staff right here. What we do at the Culture Center, if they ever, or I ever mention the term God, you know what we do? We put a tally up on the whiteboard. And every time that happens, we wait until Wednesdays, and we count up all them tallies. And we figure out, okay, it's like, at first it was pretty bad, but after a while I got pretty good at it. And so, with all the tallies, I might times it by 3, might times it by 4. And that's the number of push-ups we're going to do. We're going to pay for these patriarchal sins. You know what I'm saying? And I guarantee you, just trying to remind people, since don't say guys, that's one thing. But when you have to do some push-ups, when your arms are burning, you're going to remember, and you're going to realize that you're not going to say guys ever again when you're addressing men and women and anybody else in between.
Now, that is a slightly disturbing, almost cult-like negative reinforcement. If you use the word God at his cultural center, you end up, as far as I can tell from the dim audio, obliging the entire group to do some multiple of push-ups each week until you stop committing what I think he called patriarchal sins. A playful, yet somewhat sinister method of social conditioning and thought control, wouldn't you say? Let's move on to another speech of his.
The mainstream media creates divisive images through stereotypes, which keep people divided. These gross, stereotypical caricatures of people, and their overgeneralizations of these people, and then they go ahead and slap that on a whole group of people, right? And it's never to be taken as if it's all the way truth and gospel. And the intention was never to be created, well, it's just, well, this is just a generalization, this is a general observation. No, these stereotypes are created for political means.
Do you think he means stereotypes like colored people suffering from internalized racism, or white people that require some anti-racism work? Do you think he means those kinds of stereotypes that are implemented for political means?
Right? Think about all of the news that you've ever watched in your life. Or think about all the movies that you've seen or the TV shows. Right? How do they portray people of color? Poorly. Poor. Right? Poor. You're poor. Right? What else? Ignorant. They're ignorant. What else? Lazy. They're lazy. What? Aggressive. They're violent. They're aggressive. Dangerous. Criminals. Right? Look how many melanated people we have in this room. I know damn near every one of you. And I know for sure that you ain't dangerous or wild. You know what I'm saying? So you can obviously see that there's a message that is portrayed, put out into the world, making people of color looking like they're, you know what it is that they want people of color to appear inhuman. Because when you dehumanize a person, it's easier for their subjugation to happen. It doesn't hurt as bad when you see them dying in the streets. And so when this image is portrayed, put out to the world, it reinforces this idea that melanated people of color, brown and black people, are dangerous, are criminals, are illegal, right? This goes and plants in your mind, and don't say that it doesn't impact you, because you've been exposed to these messages since you were a child.
Yes, don't you dare disagree with what I just said, because this is all subconscious. This has all been implanted into you. You're thinking it, even if you don't know that you're thinking it.
You're an adult now. And that's gone into your subconscious. Those are seeds that get planted into deep down in your mind.
Thus, the origins of internalized racism, which he will help cure you of.
Think about, we talk about it too. Think about how white people are depicted in the media, right? They got you looking wild, bro. They got you, from the mainstream media, they'll have you thinking that white people are going to come up to a church and shoot everybody up. Mainstream media have you thinking that the white people are going to come shoot up your school. Come here, start shooting some people up right now. Take our pizza, right? Like the mainstream media will have white people depicted as a good portion of them being Donald Trump supporters. Got white people looking ignorant. And so it goes, and you know what's really interesting is that there's an over-representation of white people in the media. Like, that's all you see when you turn on the news, when you watch a TV show. Look at all the commercials that you see. Look at all the ads that you see. It's white people. And white people don't benefit from having their over-representation there. Because not only does that distort your perception of the world, has you thinking that you're always the main character. And you don't realize this, how that impacts you. So that when you go and start interacting and communicating with some people, you just kind of automatically assume, like, what do you mean I'm supposed to be in the center? Why you treating me like this? Why you tripping?
See, white people are victims of the media as well. It's not that they're inherently racist. They've just been subconsciously programmed to think they're the center of the universe. It's not their fault. They can't help it. They're all just victims. Because if internalized racism and regular racism were merely inherent traits to colored people and white people respectively, if there wasn't some external force that was programming them with this wrong way of thinking, then John Eklof would have no way of curing people of their internalized racism and regular racism. Which we all have, remember. Regardless of who you are, you're all racist in one way or another. But John Eklof, he's got the tools and the talent to fix everything. That's all for now, folks. As I said, I may or may not revisit Mr. Eklof in the future, but either way, keep an eye on him. In the current social climate, I see him going places. Thanks for watching.